Good night. Welcome or welcome back. I got caught up scrolling on Instagram and I should have been reviewing my notes. So hopefully tonight goes great. What can I say? So tonight's episode is really about AI for beginners. And well, before I jump into tonight's topic, a quick note. Um, I realized that last week I had said this week would be going into either funding or, well, since that original episode, the audio was messed up. I think it was week 3, or online selling, like say Amazon, Etsy, those kind of platforms. But to be fair, I reviewed it earlier and I did also say unless something else came up that was a bit more pressing. And the AI topic is more pressing, to be fair, because I realized that I was getting sidetracked with the sessions as the weeks went by, sidetracked in the sense of a little bit from my core mission, which was to bridge the knowledge and information gap I see in the Caribbean versus the global stage. And I think subconsciously I probably started doing it because, well, I didn't realize that I was, I guess, trying to be a little gentle, whereas maybe I should trust you guys more to catch up and bridge that gap faster. So I was starting with some softer topics and, just doing everything beginner friendly. So I'll still try to keep things beginner friendly as much as possible. But if we're going to catch up to the global stage, then we still have to go faster. And that means utilizing tools for the modern era, because if you keep using outdated tools for the current era, that is majority of the reason why you're struggling in business, struggling to make income, whether online or offline. It's all the same at this point. So I touched on it in, let's see how noisy outside could get tonight. And there's construction going on next door, by the way. Like normal people would stop by nightfall, but not them. Anyway, I touched on it in some other videos on my channel where I talked about making money for the era that you're in. So when it was the land and labor era, people who made the money the easiest had the land and the equipment and all of that. So it's the equivalent of being in the modern era and not driving a car or taking a modern metro subway train or one of those things, and instead riding a donkey. So would a donkey still get you from point A to point B modern day? Yes. How long would it take versus a car? Exactly. So if you're not using AI and automation in your business or any operations you're running, whether that is solo or you have a small business and employees or anything, you are giving yourself way more hassle than you need to, definitely. And um, so, as I said, I had to check myself for that. And going forward, any of the episodes and topics I cover will incorporate AI. That's a promise I can make to you. So, as long as you tune in, I can guarantee that you will catch up and be ahead of most people in the Caribbean who are still determined to do things the outdated way. I am not one to argue with people. I mean, I will if I have to, but it's not a preference of mine. But anyway, if you want to make money as easy as possible, as simply as possible for the current era we're in, which is largely about tech and AI and all those things, you have to be online and you have to be utilizing AI. And I'd rather people, like I said, I'd rather trust you guys to catch up and follow along with the AI heavy topics than be stuck and comfortable where you are. Because if, well, I'm sure at least some of you have to know the definition of insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over and expecting to get different results. So if you are stuck where you've been for the longest time, well, it's time to try something different. And anyway, jumping into tonight's topic, finally, you're using AI wrong. I would bet money you're using AI wrong, because every person I chat with, even when they think they're using AI, and don't get me wrong, there's many levels to this thing, but most people are using it at like, and most people are using it at say level 1, where they have discovered ChatGPT. They go in, they tell it something like, give me a business idea. Okay, anything is prompting, and that's why it's called, when you talk to these AIs, prompting. You're having a chat. But the level of your prompting does determine the level of the output or the answers you get from the same AI. So people could walk away feeling like, well, Chat GPT is crap. But I can guarantee you, even on the free account, because trust me, I max out things at the free level until I need to pay. And the only time I switched over to even paying for a Chat GPT account was when I was sure that, okay, yeah, I definitely want to use this in my business. And that's a long time ago. And I decided, okay, this is an investment in my business at this point, and I don't have to wait on the credits to recharge before I can utilize it in my business and go further faster. But before that point, when I was learning it and playing around with other tools and all of that, I was using the free account, and it meant going through the same phases I'm going to talk to you about, where yes, you start off prompting very basic and you're getting basic answers because of your basic prompts. So garbage in means garbage out. This truck is going to, let me focus. I am trying, but that truck is really bugging me outside. I think they're pouring concrete. Anyway, when I say you're using AI wrong, I don't mean it as an insult, but as I said, there are levels to it, and most people are barely scratching the surface. I mean, barely. So I've been seeing a lot of AI images popping up online. I've seen people do when those trends come out, like the one where people were making the images of themselves, and I guess the different activities or jobs they do and all of that. Okay, that's making basic photos, no problem. But for people who are looking to make money with it, that's a whole different ball game. Yes, you've been doing quick prompt in, quick answer out, and that's just surface level, and you move on. But um, some people then assume the tool isn't that useful, but there's tons of things you can do. And Chat GPT itself is just scratching the surface, because from next week, I really want to jump into where things are more accurately at with, say, AI agents and other tools like, say, Claude and Google Gemini, but mostly Claude will be the focus. So in general, AI is rarely the problem. The way you're using it is the problem. So the shift I need you to make starting from tonight, if you haven't done it already, don't keep treating AI as just an answer machine, meaning you put in a question and it gives you an answer. It's a thinking tool. It can do the thinking for you, yes, but I heavily encourage people to let it do the thinking with you and brainstorm with it. Just like if you were talking to me as a consultant, I'm going to ask you questions. You're going to ask me questions. We're going to go back and forth. Do the same thing with AI. Teach it as well, treat it as your consultant, a trusted companion. I'm not saying tell it all of your business, but the more context you give it, the better output it can give you in terms of its answers. So, as I said, better input, better output, better output. So in terms of some real use cases, and these are going to take you at least to level 2, because remember I said most people are using it just at level 1, where they're asking it basic questions like, how can I find a job, or what kind of business to start. Nothing is wrong in terms of how you use it, but I would still consider it wrong in terms of underutilizing it and everything. So let me show you something very practical, because I don't want to just be telling you stuff. I want to paint a clear picture of the huge difference you can get in terms of the output from AI tools like ChatGPT. And as I said, even using ChatGPT is like scratching the surface, because I'm sure most people are just using it like Google because they see it every day. So on Google, you go and type in a question like best fast food places in Barbados and or best hotels in Barbados, and you will get answers just like on Google. However, that is again barely scratching the surface. So to be clear, what I'm about to show you is still just scratching the surface. But as I said, if most people are using AI just at level 1, this will at least get you moved on to level 2. And that alone will put you ahead of most people. Because as I said before, there are higher levels, the AI agents, automation systems. And by the way, yes, I build out all of those for individuals and companies, but let's start smaller. There are also full workflows. So imagine if you wanted AI to answer your emails, if you wanted it to do your taxes, it can do all those things. But if people already have a fear around it, as I said, we can definitely start smaller, slower. Okay, so example number 1. Right now, you're probably asking your AI, let's say ChatGPT for the context of this episode, something like what should I post to attract customers? And AI will give you something. It will always give you an answer, yes, unless you've maxed out your credits on a free account. But it will be a relatively generic answer. So the difference is if you said something instead like, I run X type of business in Barbados, I offer these types of services and list them out. My target audience is XYZ, and you tell it. They struggle with XYZ, and you tell it, and you say you want to attract customers using Instagram. That is a completely different prompt. And as I said, that's barely just level two because you can get more extensive than that. Um, then you could ask it the same question, like what kind of content should I post this week? So that prompt that I gave as the example, that is way different than just asking it, what content should I post? It will give you an answer, but it will be more generic than the example of the prompt to give you, where you're giving it way more context. Now, if I was to give it even more context and say that I serve a target audience of UE students, and I've been in business for 10 years, and I've tried this thing and that thing. I realized it didn't work in Barbados, and I have $10 to my name, and I have no car or whatever. The point is, the more context you give it, the better an answer it can give you to suit your situation, your resources, your budget, your scenario, your everything. I do have a short attention span sometimes, but sometimes I don't know when people are messaging me saying an important message or not. And no, that's this person is not saying an important message, just being a nuisance on my life. Put it in the chat and show some engagement there. That's what you can do. Oh, somebody said the chat isn't disruptive. Thank you, because it's setting off my OCD. Anyway, let me stay focused. So, in terms of what happened with the difference in those two prompts, I would hope you can see you would be using the exact same tool, meaning even a free ChatGPT account, but you would get completely different results. And you can hold me to all the things that I'm saying here. So you're not only asking better questions, you're giving better context. And I told you, you don't have to give it your entire life story. You don't have to tell it, hey, I'm in my 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s or 60s, and I live at 123 Canary Lane, Bridgetown. You don't have to tell it all that. I mean, you could, but I would suggest go at your own pace in terms of how comfortable you are with sharing your personal information, and think through how much information in terms of context it actually needs. So some of it might not be necessary to give you a great answer. So I'm not saying to give out your bank details ever. Please don't do things like that. Anyway, for example, number two, you might say something like, give me business ideas. And that is way too broad if you want a very helpful answer. So instead, if you say, I live in this location, meaning, okay, Trinidad, and I have these skills, so I know how to do woodwork. And I want to make at least 2000 US a month. If you tell it that information, yet again, it's going to give you a completely different answer than if you just tell it, I want a business idea. It will give you an answer in each case, but it will be more or less generic and specific based on the context you give it. So I have to keep drilling it for this introductory episode. The more context you give it, the better a job it can do for you in terms of giving you the better answer for your situation. So at that point, that's when you would ask it, what are the realistic business options I can start with? And remember, you just told it that you live in Trinidad, you know woodwork, and you want to make 2000 US a month. Now, if you increase or change any of those variables, the answers, as in the output, that again will change. So if you tell it you want to make $10,000 a month, it will give you a completely different business idea and plan than what you're doing, what it previously gave you. So at that point, the answers become more usable and practical to your unique situation. I'm ignoring people talking to me here. I need more supportive people in my life. Y'all are no use to me. Anyway, the answers become more practical and relevant to you because AI rewards clarity. So I have to keep drilling these things. For example, number three, you might say something like, help me create an offer. Again, that is like level one prompting. It will give you an answer each and every time, but that will be again too vague. So instead, you could say, I offer XYZ service. So I offer a greeting card printing service, and my audience struggles with where did I pick that example? Anyway, my audience struggles with good writing. Right now, they're doing um, uh, just made up stuff off the top of their head, great example. But help me turn this into something people would willingly pay money for. So if you give it that amount of context versus something like just help me create an offer, then no, you're going somewhere with it. AI can do the thinking, yes, but let it be a tool and let it do the thinking with you. And instead of just for you, especially at that basic level one level. So, in terms of the core teaching to lock it in, the problem is not the tool. Meaning, the problem is not ChatGPT. The problem is not Claude. It's not Google Gemini. It's not any of these AI tools per se. It's how you've been using it, how you've been underutilizing it. And speaking of that, I always go off on some sort of side note because I can't help it. All the ideas are always popping in my head as I'm talking. But if you picture the act of cutting down a tree in a forest, you can use a chainsaw, you can use a hacksaw. I said hacksaw like I know what that really is. Let's say an axe, I know what that is. You can use a knife, you can use a spoon. All of them will take a different level of energy, time, and stuff like that, but they will eventually get the job done. You might likely wear yourself out trying to do it with a spoon, however, versus a chainsaw. It's the same principle in terms of number one, using the wrong tool to make money in the current era, meaning if you're only using tools that were meant for previous eras, you will find it is way harder to make money modern day. On the next level to that, if you are using the wrong modern tool for the wrong scenario, it will again be harder. So think of ChatGPT as a great business partner in terms of brainstorming, bouncing ideas off of, talking back and forth, all of that. And for anybody in the Caribbean, yes, it has a free level, so you can start there, play around with it, just talk to it. You can't lose out. And I always suggest to people incorporating good safety practices. So if you are cautious as you should be, but that doesn't mean being paranoid or overly cautious. Create a separate Gmail account and start from there. That way you can feel more at ease linking it to the chat GPT and playing around with it, incorporating it with, say, your Google Calendar and letting it say set an appointment, different things like that. Because again, there are levels to it. There are AI agents even within chat GPT that can actively do stuff for you, do the actions for you. But just start by, as I said, if you're super paranoid or anything, create a separate Gmail account. Again, Google doesn't pay me. I don't get anything extra for this, but I do tend to recommend Google products because they are free to start with and they integrate across all devices, whether that's Android, um, iPhone, PC, MacBook, everything. So get yourself a new account, integrate it with the chat GPT and just start from there. But apart from that, practice using the right tools for the right job. So chat GPT is good for that kind of stuff. And I will say this as dare I say it myself, an excellent tip. Get in on all of this while all of these companies that have all the millions and billions of dollars are fighting for your attention. Yes, you would hear people saying if something is free, you are the product. Yeah, but sometimes it doesn't mean that it can't be a win-win situation. So why I said that is because um, OpenAI owns ChatGPT, another company, Anthropic, owns Claude, which is another AI, and Google owns Google Gemini. All these things are on and on and on and on. And a lot of other AI tools you'll see out there actually run on one or more of these in the background anyway. But all of these companies are in competition with one another, and I feel quite fine in saying this to you. And that is why a lot of times you're getting all of this access for free. So while you do have it for free, lock in and utilize it and use it to the best of your advantage. Even on the free accounts, you can get a free account on just about all of them. Perplexity AI is another one. And going all the way back to the example of the chainsaw and versus the spoon with, hacking down the tree, Try each tool for what it is best at. So Perplexity AI, for example, is great at research, meaning there's different proposals I sent out over time where I would have had to say, let's say it was a franchise and they was sending out a proposal. I would have, once upon a time, I would have had to, take a lot of time out, sit down and research, okay, all of the business locations, all of the stats, like number of employees, how long they were in business. And not everybody has the information widely available on their website. You have to kind of hunt through the social media platforms for it, the website, everything. Now, if you just type in Perplexity AI, hey, I want to do research on this company. I'd like you to find the contact information for the decision making person, the CEO, something like that. It will give you all of the information and why. And it's not like ChatGPT can't do research, but the tool that is better suited naturally to research is Perplexity AI. So think of it again as the chainsaw versus the spoon in terms of chopping down the tree. Both will eventually get the job done. The spoon will eventually get there, but how long would it take you? So ChatGPT is not the best at naturally researching, but they do have features built in, like say web search and deep research that you can activate that give it that extra boost at doing research. However, if you want the naturally better tool at doing it, Perplexity AI is for that. A lot of people like Claude, that AI for copywriting, meaning writing any kind of text. So drafting emails, drafting books, ebooks, responses to people, drafting your social media content, that those kind of scripts, anything like that. Hands down, you'll see it online again and again and again. People will mostly recommend Claude for that. Can ChatGPT write a script? Yes. And you can generally tell when people are using ChatGPT for it. It's because they've gotten very generic. Now, yes, again, you can train ChatGPT to talk like you, think like you, all of that, where you can actually adjust the settings in your ChatGPT in terms of the tone. You can dictate to ChatGPT. By the way, this is just another side note. You can get it to verbally talk back to you. There's again levels and levels and levels to this thing, but even in the most basic sense, there are ways you can get started with incorporating AI into your business and operations very gently. So I gave some examples earlier that hopefully you can remember and take away. I kind of lost track of where it was in my notes because I really like say tracking. But if the input is shallow, the output will also be shallow. As I said earlier, AI rewards clarity. So this is where most people get stuck because they don't even know what context to give. And that's why I just wanted to give the practical examples earlier. And another side note, by next week, I should be able to visually show you a lot of the examples online because you can write storybooks with AI, you can create graphics with AI now, and a lot of these things you can get started for absolutely free. So I do not want anyone staying stuck feeling like they're I mean, you're no longer limited by your geographical location in terms of making money online. And I am there for the rest of the way when you actually need help. But to be honest, I wouldn't say that I love helping people at the very, very beginner level because my sessions can be intense one-on-one, and I like people who are either very locked in and ready to go and don't need a lot of hand holding or babying, or it'll probably frustrate you and me. I can guarantee it because it will mean I have to slow down too much, or you will probably feel too pressured. That is exactly why I do not mind giving away all this information for free on here so y'all can get up to speed. And at that point, if and when you need me, is when you can book me. Before then, all of these are things you can get started with on your own. But if you do need my help, you can still join the Wealth Circle, which is my free community hosted on the Skool platform. It is still free for now. We're at now 38 or 48 members. When it gets to maybe 50 or something, maybe then I'll start charging any additional people who join because every week I add new resources that I want you to be able to access and get started with for free so you can have zero excuses as to why we're all still poor. Um, you know, so all right, I know y'all said y'all couldn't hear it earlier, but you have to hear that. Okay. Anyway, most people don't know what context to give, as I was saying earlier. and they don't know how to think through the problem, the audience, and the offer using AI. So, where AI really shines is in places where you would have felt just stuck before. And I can tell you, entrepreneurship in the Caribbean is often quite the lonely journey where a lot of times you might feel like your family and friends just don't understand the path you're on and all that. Again, that's where GPT can shine and these different AIs. Do not get too weird where you really start to act like this thing is your best friend and you tell it all your deepest, darkest secrets. I mean, I still tell mine please and thank you just in case there's an AI uprising sometime in the future. But you don't have to get all like too sucked in with AI. But you can. Ooh. What are my thoughts? Sorry, what somebody in chat asks, what are your thoughts on Meta AI and Gemini that seem to come embedded in most of our devices? Oh, well, that's an easy answer. Um, I think if you have owned a smart device within the last 10 or more years, even, AI has been embedded in all of these things for so long. You can't really get away from it. So I don't have strong feelings in terms of privacy because even if you had a smart device, for most of us had them from the time we were in what secondary school or something. If you have ever owned one, as you like to say in Barbados, dog already dead. Like they have all our information already. I think just like in any other case, see AI as a tool and protect yourself in the best way you can. So, as I said, simple things like creating a separate email address. If you know that you have your current email address linked to all of your personal information, like your banking and all of that, especially now where there's two-factor authentication, I would even suggest you look to just get a separate cell number. So, again, if you have your primary cell number linked to your banking and all those things, just get another one and keep maybe a little plan on it or something. But those are the best ways you could protect yourself. But Meta owns like a chunk of the market share now. They own Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. If you own even Instagram and you think you've escaped AI, you didn't. Meta owns it. They have the AI features embedded in there. Yes, all the chats are supposedly encrypted, but what does that even mean? Because as soon as all of these companies come up with their security features, there's always a hacker like 10 steps ahead, who knows how to crack them. If any of you remember when Apple used to boast and say that our devices are unhackable and Android is trash and yada, yada, yada. And then the hacker said, yeah, hold my beer. And they hacked Apple. So, I mean, um, any of these things, they're hackable, but no one is actively out there searching for any of us or looking to just hack any regular person out there, just like that. So you do the best you can to protect yourself. The person asks, would you consider them as useful as the few I've mentioned earlier for entrepreneurs? As useful is a tough question. As I said, it's more about using the right tool for the right task. So Google Gemini, for example, you could create like entire storybooks and graphics in there very easy. Could you do the same thing with um, ChatGPT? Yes, but it wouldn't be as straightforward. Same with another tool called Gamma AI. That is purposely made for creating presentations, for example. So, can you create a presentation in ChatGPT? Absolutely. Can you create one in Claude? Sure. But Gamma is like already out the box made for creating presentations. So, the moment you go and talk to it, even in the most basic terms, it can give you a great presentation that would rival even the best of a PowerPoint presentation. And I know all of us have trauma from creating those during school days. In terms of entrepreneurs, as you asked, as I said, the principles don't change, the right tool for the right problem. So if you're using Perplexity AI for research, that's your best bet. If you're using Claude to do your rating and different things, your best bet. But any of these tools can do the same job as the other tools, but it might be better or worse. Um, I hope I've addressed your questions. And in terms of the tool, the resources, the community, I've already mentioned those where the recommended tool for the week, I'll say, is definitely ChatGPT because I want people to at least get your feedback just playing around with that, if nothing else, but no, using it properly. And to get you started, I've even included not just this live Income Lab Q&A pack that I first announced in the week 4 episode, which was about starting a business. So you can go and rewatch any of the previous episodes in the playlist. The link is below this video in the description. You can still get that tool available in the Wealth Circle community, which is, as I said, my free community I host on the platform Skool, all for free. Go into there, join, and under the classroom tab, you can find the resources hub where all of these tools are available. They're clearly labeled, so I know y'all can read and y'all can find it. If you have any questions, DM me there inside the Wealth Circle and ask away. I don't charge anything there. So just that's the best place to just ask me any of your questions. And additionally, there's also the prompt pack that I had included from originally when I relaunched this new community instead of the previous one. And you can still get that. So it's a prompt pack that, again, will get you at least to level 3 or 4 in terms of your prompting that you're doing with ChatGPT. So go join, access those tools and resources under the classroom tab. And as I said earlier, everything from this week will be AI forward. Next week, I am committing to showing you stuff real time that you can do with these things. Even like Notebook LM is another great one that you can use for creating graphics, and there's so much you can do with it. So I think we do need to remove the fear and stigma from AI, because if you're not using it, yeah, you will make your life harder in this modern era in terms of making money, setting up your business, running things the right way. And next week, if you're interested, I'll share more of the background on my business and how I best incorporate AI, because um, I like to run a lean operation. I most highly value my time, and that means using the right tools for the right jobs and letting them do the heavy lifting so that I can get time to do the things I more enjoy. And that is honestly things like this. I started my outreach recently. Um, I love giving back. I like that kind of stuff. So it's like I don't want to be glued to my devices 24/7. I don't want to be stuck creating content 24/7. Let the tools do the work that you don't want to do so you can have the time freed up to do the parts you actually enjoy. So it's as simple as that. I went a little over just talking about that part, but just remember, you don't have to master all of these tools that I've mentioned immediately. Just go and start with ChatGPT. Go and download the prompt pack all for free. Get started playing around with it. And just if you show up each week, I can guarantee if you show up each week and stick with me, you will catch up faster than you think with all of these. And you will be wondering why you didn't start sooner. So thanks for joining. And I will see you guys next week for week 11.